I put brand new batteries in it. So.
Hello, there it is. Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Now. How is everybody doing? There we go. There we go. We're at the end, coming to the final. One more hour of presentations and, of course, closing ceremonies. I'm very, very pleased to announce here. No, I don't believe you. Yeah. He's trying to deepfake me already. On that note, I'm here to announce Chris Roberts, our Deepfake strategist, going to give us the welcome to the top 10 list. Everyone, big round of applause for Chris.
Thank you, sir. All right, playtime. Everybody having fun? Yes, we already went through that, didn't we? All right, did everybody, or at least most of you, get some of the baklava? Yes? Good. All right, so last year, whenever I was here, the previous year, I brought alcohol. This year, I brought baklava. I'm assuming baklava works for everybody? Good. All right. Maybe we'll do alcohol-infused baklava next time around. Feed it to the kids. All right. So I put this together last week. I gave a quick run through and I've edited it. It's my normal typical thing. I just finished the slides just now again. Quick one on who the hairy thing is, quick one on why we're having this conversation, and then we're going to go through a whole bunch of top 10s. The whole logic here, and I'll explain why, the whole logic is quite often we'll run through security and we don't necessarily ask all the right questions. Neither do we help others ask the questions about why, what, when, and why for, and especially now as we're hitting this whole wonderful world of artificial intelligence and augmented and all the other stuff with it, we don't ask enough questions to help inform ourselves, let alone help inform others, and therefore make more of an educated decision. And then we're going to have some conversations about getting into this industry and everything. But before we do that, a couple of things. One, a huge shout out to John and all the volunteers and all the team here. They've been absolutely fucking amazing. Secondly, I love this bloody location. I mean, I don't want this to grow beyond this location. That's just a personal thing. AV folks that are there and there, huge bloody shout out to those folks as well, because it makes us look spliverized and splitty on stage. John isn't in here, is he? Good. Okay, if you have not signed the t-shirt, it's sitting out there on the reception area. If you haven't signed it, get the hell up from this talk in the next 45, 50 minutes and go sign the sodding t-shirt, please and thank you. And that's everybody. There is nobody here that should go, I am not worthy of signing a t-shirt. Sign the fucking t-shirt. All right, me. For those of you that do or don't know me, and yes, by the way, this is themed with the minions because every year I'll pick something. It's squirrels, minions, dragons. Actually, this is dragons as well, but there's minions because I was in a minions mode. And they're easy to deepfake. That's me, large hairy thing. I'm actually also hanging out at Worldwide Technologies at the moment, so I'm having fun there. They actually let me in the doors. So let's talk about lists. Let's talk about why. Quick show of hands, how many of you make lists? Most of us. Okay, we make them in our daily lives, make them in our work lives and everything else. For me, how many of you still make a list on paper? Yeah, it's something satisfying, isn't there, about that sense of accomplishment and going, whee, or putting a tick through it or something like that. It also eases our anxiety, and this is stuff we'll talk about later on for the on the mental health side of things. Reduces stress, meaningfulness, all these other good things. So lists are useful. We still use them in the age of everything else. How many of you have used like the autonomous systems to help you make your list? You know, here's my entire email inbox, here's everything I'm fucking doing, go make a list for me. Anybody tried that craziness yet? I did. It was hilarious. It didn't work. Don't do it yet. Yeah, bad ones. So let's actually talk about the lists themselves. What do we have in here? Who is getting into this industry? Did we lose all the rugrats? We've got one. Big rugrat. You got hairy things. Have we lost all the small rugrats? Yeah, well, then that fucking sucks. Well, we'll talk a little bit about it. So I asked AI. Oi! Bloody kids, I swear. Yeah, there we go, thank you. This is for you. Stick your heads up from the screens and get on with it. So according to artificial intelligence, this is exactly how we should look in our industry. I asked AI. Now, I'll give AI some credit. For those of you that follow me on LinkedIn, I was messing around. I refreshed my system and did some interesting things with AI. And I asked it, give me hackers, give me other things. And it gave me a whole bunch of white guys in hoodies. So this apparently is better than the original version now. They've actually taken some suggestions. Now we at least have a little bit of color variance, except everybody still looks like they came off the front of a freaking stud magazine, for crying out loud. So anyway, we're getting in there. So I asked AI, if you were coming into security, what would you need? And AI said, certifications and higher level education. You will need coding knowledge. You will need network knowledge, operations knowledge, and red teaming knowledge. AI sucks. It's a very, very technology focused. Whereas if we take a step back and go, what do we think that we need to get into this industry? This is what we need. This was actually from last night. We took over the, I didn't realize there was an upstairs of I want to call it Duck Duck Bistro, but it's not Duck Duck, it's not Fuck Duck Bistro, Duck City, thank you. Here's what we need in our industry, the thirst for knowledge. I've been sitting over in one of the corners here, and I've been watching Tool. I've been watching all the other things, the activities areas going on over here. I also, when I parked the car this morning, I parked it yesterday. When I walked over from the hotel, I walked through where the kids area was. It was freaking amazing. The one thing I love about here, and it's the same thing for me with GERCON, is we have not filled the room with people like us. We filled it with the next generation, the generation after that. We have turned around and said, the Rugrats are the ones that are eventually, hopefully, going to take over from us so we can get the heck out of here and actually do something different for a change. So it's that ability to ask questions. I've talked about this a little bit again on LinkedIn. I have now inherited a 9-year-old and a 16-year-old. The 9-year-old quite literally has 1,000,001 questions about everything. How does this work? Why does this work? Why is this color? What is going on? What is happening? I bought, for those of you that don't know XKCD, go look at it online. Randall Munro is amazing. I actually communicate with him every now and again. He and I email backwards and forwards, and I got him to send me a copy of all of his books written out to Lana. I handed the books to Lana. Now she's asking me all sorts of interesting questions about how to take over the world, and I'm like, yes! Here's the other thing we need to foster, and I love it when we see the tool crews, and I love it when we see everything else, a desire to communicate and collaborate. It's something we haven't done very well insofar as cybersecurity. We were, unfortunately, very, very good at sitting here and doing this in our own environments, but we weren't good at collaborating. We had to invent DevSecOps instead of going, hey, we can collaborate with people. Doesn't work for me. Ability to string 2 or more sentences together. Something that we're also not very good at doing, especially when we have to go talk to leadership. When we go talk to leadership and we go, well, the widget over here is blah, 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 and leadership goes, oh, fuck it. Doesn't work. But it's how do we communicate in a language that everybody else should understand? How do we walk into leadership and go, hey, love the business, however, let's have a conversation about probability and the risk of you leaving the frigging front door open. Somebody's going to come in, throw a handful of sand into the machine, and everybody's out of work for the next month. Let's address that. An understanding of how business works. I've asked so often when I've walked into companies and when I've interviewed people who are wanting to work with the companies I'm at, I'm like, what do you know about us? What I read on the internet. Okay, did you look at our 10K? Did you look at who actually heads it up? Did you look at the charity work that we do? Did you look at who we work with? Did you look at where we are? Understand the company and understand whom you are going to work with, because then you can ask all sorts of other questions as well. But it's taking an interest in the organization. We are not just here from a technology perspective to play silly buggers with computers. Our job is really to protect everybody around us. And if we don't, is everybody all right, or do you just break something? Our job is to protect those around us, and if we don't understand what they're doing or why they're doing it or how they're doing it, how can we be the most effective that we need to be at our roles? Let us have a conversation, if you are not already fed up at the end of day 2, about intelligence, risk, and deepfakes. Anybody recognize this? Anybody want to give me an answer? Recognize this. Infamous, actually not infamous, very, very famous individual who loved taking black and white pictures of things around America land. Thank you. Is that a real Ansel Adams or is that a fake Ansel Adams? It's a what? Give me, okay, show of hands. How many of you think it's fake? Awesome. How many of you think it's real? I hate this industry. It's a real one. All right. Another Ansel Adams. It does, doesn't it? It looks actually gorgeous, doesn't it? It looks absolutely beautiful. However, that came out of a whole bunch of microchips' brain with a little bit of help from me. That took about 10 seconds worth of training, 30 seconds to generate, and then that was about it. It's beautiful, but it's all imaginary. Now that's imagery. Let's talk about humans for a second. We love these two characters. If nothing else, they are very good at filling our news feeds on a very, very regular basis. The individual on the left, as you probably are noticing, is holding one of the boring machines like his flamethrowers. The individual on the right is canvassing for votes. These were pulled straight off the media. These were taken straight off of news feeds as well. These have circulated. We, unfortunately, as humans, take these as truth because we haven't thought about asking the questions. Not only that, here's the other problem. I know it's small writing, I have broken every single law of presenting, but these are just some of the things that if we haven't, we should be trying to help people understand how to spot the difference between real and deep fake. But here's the problem. That's only good for the next week or two, because the week after that, the engine gets better. It doesn't take 10 seconds or 30 seconds. I will get these slides out to everybody, by the way. It doesn't take 10 seconds or 30 seconds. It doesn't take 1 second. It just takes somebody quickly looking on the internet to find some data, plugging it into a replacement machine, and hey presto, now you have a very, very good facsimile of somebody else. God, I just showed my age, didn't I? I used the words facsimile. Oh, bloody hellfire and damnation. Here's the challenge. That's great for right now, but it isn't going to last. As humans, we now have to go back to everybody that we have told to don't click shit and don't send it, and look out for the Nigerian scammers and keep an eye out for the romance scammers because nobody loves you on the internet, and tell them, hey, you just can't trust anything. That's a bitter pill to swallow. So how and what can we do differently? How can we take a different approach to this? And this is where I like some of this. This is where I take a step back and go, okay, deepfakes are signals. We've dealt with signals since the first time we plugged a network cable in and went through fricking, oh my God, token ring. Gosh, ugh. How many of you remember Banyan Vines? Or want to admit to it at this point in time? Y'all young'uns, get off my goddamn lawn. Here's the stuff that we're working on, and here's some of the stuff I'm messing around with now. We're breaking deepfakes down into a couple of different areas. We're taking a look at the textual, so the fun text that we get, the audio, the visual, the social media, and the real-time live stuff. And then we're basically saying, okay, we can't tell people to not trust anything. How can we start getting in the way of the signal, and where can we get in the way of the signal? What can we actually do to try to basically figure out what is actually typing on the other end of the line and how it's typing? Because as we start to look at the areas, not just of deepfakes, but how an intelligence architecture is being leveled against us, it's a fairly long list and it's getting longer. The digital extortion side of the world. Had a really good conversation with the guys from Black Cloak, and we were talking about how, as a leader, people aren't still going after me, they're going after the family, they're going after the kids, they're going to start extorting the kids and everybody around them. Not only digital extortion that way, we've seen it in the news a few times, let's face it, whereas it's the leadership picture or face or audio file has been manipulated to demand the money or whatever to be transferred. We see extended phishing, same thing. As humans, we are still the gateway to our organizations for the most part. We still haven't done a good job of trying to educate people to think before they do something. I was sitting down with Kate over from Cybermaniacs just now, and we were talking about how we do this go forward. How do we change things? How do we actually take time to empower people more effectively? And we're not going to do that by sitting there and lambasting them to not bloody click shit anymore. Recruitment. How often have we now dealt with the fact that the recruitment world is now full of deepfakes? Let alone the call centers that everybody else has to deal with, let alone the wealth management systems and everything else. Training, education, reputation. How quickly could I take a picture of a presidential candidate or a local candidate, drop it out there, and start a wildfire story? This country almost went to war with itself over toilet paper, for crying out loud. What do you think we would do if we suddenly put something else up on there and deepfake the hell out of that? We're polarized at the moment. It's easy to tip people over. So this is what we need to look at, and I know the writing's small, I apologize. We break it down into signals. Some of this is what we hear or see, but we still have to answer some very, very simple questions. Where are they? If I am receiving an inbound call, audio, message, text, or whatever, where are they coming from? Not only that, but how can I enrich that data? How can I put any kind of intelligence, threat intelligence, data, geodata, everything else to with it to make a first level informed decision as to whether the signal even coming in is useful or not, legitimate or otherwise? When we figure that one out, then we're going to figure out who the heck this person is. AI is cool, but it's nothing more at the moment, arguably, than taking another look at identity. As we start looking at it, we're breaking it down to an identity play, because it's replicating me, it's replicating somebody else, it's replicating a request or a response. So how can I get in the middle of the call and start listening in? How can I listen for harmonics? How can I listen for all those other variables to go, who am I actually listening to and why? The backgrounds, the noise, the repetitions. Potentially if somebody's tried putting some kind of a watermark in there, not that those can't be faked in 2 minutes flat. Then we start looking at context. This country, I think it was just this country, 10 billion US dollars has gone out of the door based on fraud last year. And a lot of that is quite simply because I've come up to somebody and said, hey, I've got this really freaking cool thing, and blah, 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 and I elicit an emotion. I get you to do something, I get you to buy into me, I get you to react. All these other things that we have spent decades to some degree trying to work through the system. Now an intelligence system is doing the same thing, except it can do it in more languages, faster, quicker, and more effectively. So how do we design something that can recognize that and then help the person on the other end of the line understand, is that legitimate or otherwise? And what else can we build into it? Can we build into it a dialect, texture, linguistics, consistency? And then when we figure that out, what do they want from me? Those of us that are older and jaded realize rarely, if ever, do we get something for nothing. How do we design that into our systems? How do we help our systems understand that what are they wanting me to do? Is it send money? Is it believe them? Is it listen to them? What is the motive for this call? If it's a call center, there's a request for help, which triggers our empathy. Is that being exploited? All of these are things that we can measure if we build an effective system. If we stop putting point solutions in place, and again, look at that entire call sets of conversations. And then afterwards, and probably as important than anything else, if not more important, I want a feedback loop. I want to know what we got right. More importantly, I want to know what we got wrong. And I want to learn. Because just like that earlier slide that said, here's a dozen things to recognize a bad human, that tomorrow that changes. So if I don't have a feedback loop from my architectural system, then the chances of me even staying chance on this to catch up, pretty bad. Here is me breaking down one of my signals. This was actually fun to do. I had a vendor that was like, oh, we can detect all this wonderful stuff. So I schooled them. I took them to school and I said, okay, let's break it down. What are you detecting and how are you doing it and how are you breaking signals down? And then I went through an entire waveform thing, dropped it onto a 3D. The 3D graph I use on this, by the way, is the same one I use on the brain work I'm doing. I'm actually taking signals out of my brain and we'll just call it Iron Man shit. It's kind of fun. I'm actually trying to figure out how to get signals into the brain at the moment. That's even more fun. That's actually kind of cool shit. I'll talk about that hopefully next year. Yeah, scary, but fun scary. I haven't managed to cook the brain yet, but I feel like I'm getting close. But this is fun because you break the signals down. You can see all the areas you look at. How much of this is human? How much of this is machine? How much of this is overlaid? How much of this is repetitive? How much is signature-based? We're going back. How many of you remember the early days of antivirus? Oh, we're going to detect it with a signature. And the attacker was like, hey, watch me put another semicolon in. Up yours in your signature. Same shit, different day. So we have to learn from the past. We have to go, what did we do last time around that helped us, and how can we build it into something like this and more? Now, we're not going to do this alone, let's face it. This is going to take all of us. Not only is it going to take all of us, these are questions that we're going to have to ask other people. Which is why one of my other questions that I want to put out there is know your MSP. Or how many of you rely on a managed security or a managed service vendor? Who want to admit to it? How many of you are MSPs or MSSPs? Okay. So I asked AI to give me a picture of MSPs. This is what it gave me. I kid you not. It gave me 4 images. 3 of them were fun. This one was more so. I like it. So when we talk and we look at MSPs, we have to take a step back, and I've got a whole list of questions, and this is where we start going, okay, and I had to do this when I was over at Boom. I needed somebody. I couldn't, and I didn't want to do it all myself. So I needed an extension of my team. I didn't need to hand everything off. I didn't need to throw it over the fence and pretend it was somebody else's problem like we did in the cloud in the early days. I needed somebody to work with us and hold us accountable as well. But I also needed them as part of that to demonstrate good listing skills, because they need to understand my business, because we're not cookie cutter, nobody is. But then how do they balance the cookie cutter versus the complete custom and keep the funds where they needed to be? I needed actionable work done. I needed alerts. I needed to know what I needed to take care of, which meant all the tuning, which meant I needed to be held accountable, as did they. Specialized. What areas can they help us with? In this case, they came in, had a fantastic endpoint solution that we kicked our old one out, and they helped deploy it for us. And the same thing with threat intelligence. I had my feeds, they brought extras in, we made it really, really good. But these are things that we look at vendors and suppliers and we turn them into partners. Incident response time. When something goes wrong, are you walking shoulder to shoulder, or are we pointing fingers? And how quickly do we get to that point? Critical things that we need to know. Same thing with table. How many of you run tabletop exercises? All right. How many of you want to run tabletop exercises? So I have a question. If I came back next year, how many of you want to run a tabletop workshop? Yeah, do like a tabletop exercise workshop? I did one in Colorado a couple of months ago. We did a 3-hour workshop. We ran like literally half a dozen tabletop exercises in 3 hours. I provided baklava, again, and lots of conversations. And we ran through them because a tabletop exercise, literally, you should be able to do across a coffee break or a lunch break. This is not something that takes days and weeks of planning. This is literally all of you sit around with your computers and somebody gets the designated computer taken from them and you work through it. That's number one. You all sit around a table on day 2, somebody dies. Congratulations, you're the dead person today. What passwords did you have? What accounts did you have? What secret squirrel shit did you have that isn't documented, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is simple stuff. Doesn't have to be complicated. And it helps you gain awareness. For those of us that are former .mil or .gov, crawl, walk, run, dry fire, live fire. You don't on day 1 hand a loaded weapon to a recruit or a bootneck and go, "Hi, welcome to your loaded weapon," and expect it to end well. You give them a wooden stick. If they graduate from a wooden stick, they get a pointy wooden stick. As part of this, we'll talk about endpoints as well. All parts of the AI. I asked AI to give me steampunk endpoints. I'm actually I want my desk to look like that. I kind of freaking like it, to be perfectly honest. We've got a whole list of endpoint stuff, and I'm actually not going to go through it because if you want the list of how to do top 10s of endpoints, I'll send it out to you, but I just like the picture. Let's talk about the CISO. How many of you aspire to be a CISO? Or want to be a CISO? Nobody at the moment. Smart move on your part. How many of you are CISOs or have been CISOs? Yeah, okay. Alcohol is sitting in the back somewhere. I asked AI, I'm like, okay, let's have this conversation. What does it take? And the CISO role is twofold. And it isn't just CISO, it's the leadership role. And I look at it from a twofold standpoint. I look at it with, as a leader going into a company, what do I care about? And what should the company care about as it looks at me as somebody coming in to help them? So I said, give me a CISO what the hell did I ask it for? Give me a CISO in the frame of like the Maltese Falcon. So I got my Maltese Falcon CISO. As we look at organizations, and as we are looked at, what should we be thinking about? First and foremost, let's take a look at this. Threat management. If you don't know what you have or what it's doing, how the heck are you going to know what the heck to do with it? Show of hands, how many of you know where all of your assets are? Physical assets, all of your computers inside your organization. Okay, if we don't know what they are, how the hell are we going to look after the darn things? I'm not even going to ask about where all your data is, because I bug it if I know where the heck all my data is. Risk awareness and communication. If you don't know what's coming at you, and you don't know where, and you don't know how, and you don't have allies in the environment, how are you going to actually collaborate and collaborate with people? Emerging technologies. It's nice to know about them, but for crying out loud, stop buying this stuff until you fix the basics, please. Collaboration with business leaders, again, something that we've forgotten to do. Stress management. That's a biggie. Take a bloody holiday. The world will still be here afterwards. It'll still be a shit show. And we'll all still be waiting for you with open arms. And alcohol. And baklava. Team building, security integration, all that kind of good stuff. How are we doing time-wise? I'm getting close, aren't I? All right. This was a fun one. This was actually, how many of you are actually actively looking for jobs at the moment? got it, or keeping an eye. I just changed jobs. And I went in with a whole bunch of questions. And I'm going to go through some of them if you guys don't mind. Back to that list of questions. Firstly, what's the company's current security posture? It's a simple enough question, but it's hard for a company to maybe answer it. Good isn't an answer. Just a heads up. Is an answer, and at least you have a background to know where the hell you're starting from. As in the words of the immortal Kung Fu Panda, there is now a level 0. Number 2, what are the top security concerns for the business? Engineering might have a different concern than manufacturing, who's going to have a different concern than finance, who's going to have a different concern than IT. It's knowing what those concerns are and balancing them, and then understanding which ones can be addressed, and then talking to the leadership and the board on how to potentially address them. How does the business handle risk management, and what is its risk appetite? If it toss a coin, you know where the door is. In my case, part of the reason for no longer being at the organization I was at in Colorado is their ability to handle and manage risk changed. I'd signed some very important documents telling some very important government people that we would take care of all their toys. And when the organization said, hey, we're going to put all the foreign and all the domestic developers in the same room, and for ITAR reason, we'll just tell them not to look at the other people's computers, I left a week later. Simple stuff. What's the company's incident response plan? If the answer is, what's one of those, at least you know where you're starting from. Let alone where is the plan and when was it last tested. What's the biggest challenges that the security team's facing? Let's see if they know themselves well enough. We all look in the mirror in the morning. We all know ourselves. We might not necessarily want to ask all the right questions or even face the right answers, but at least we do something about it to understand ourselves. What's the approach to emerging tech? Oops, sorry. I want a touch screen. It's terrible when you want a touch screen, isn't it? Bloody Max. All right, we'll do hide the body. I like hide the body. So, as part of my list of 10 questions, some of you might know that occasionally I wander around and I taser vendors. And there are times when you really just have to get rid of the vendor body because, well, it's a vendor and sometimes the body just has to be hidden. Now, in doing so, there is one simple one. I like this. I used to have this on one of my computers. Now, there are things we can ask the vendor to do. There are things that we can talk about the grooves. There are things we can do with best practice and magic missiles. We can dip them in a tar pit. We can do all this good stuff. But I asked AI. I said, AI, give me somebody being eaten by a dragon. AI didn't fully understand that I wanted blood, gore, and guts, and somebody being chewed up by a dragon. I got a freaking dragon picnic. Then on the second side, I said, give me a dragon in the frame of Lord of the Rings. And I got another dragon picnic, for crying out loud. Then I got a little more frustrated and I said, hey, I want an old dragon eating somebody. Somehow or other, it hasn't figured this out. So I gave up and I said, all right, look, you stupid bunch of bloody microchips. Give me, and I gave up. So then I went back to Google and gave up with AI. And I said, Google, give me something where a dragon is eating a person. And I got Game of Thrones. So I was happy. So if we need to have a vendor top 10, that's number 1. Let's talk about the important stuff. Mental health. How many of you saw the Mental Health Hackers Village thing that was on the table over there? Yes. So freaking happy they were here. But let's talk about mental health for a second. I put out a list a while ago about things that we can do for ourselves to actually help our mental health. It's a longer list, and I'll give it to anybody that wants it. But it's simple stuff like journal, as in write things down. One thing that you are grateful for today. For me, it's all of this. It's as simple as that. Plus, I'm driving back to Missouri this evening, which means I get to sit in the car, crank the music on, and relax and unwind, unless there are some of those bloody suicidal deer and squirrels in the middle of the road. Journal one thing that you accomplished today. Richard gave a talk yesterday. Richard gave a talk yesterday when he had the conversation about do something, accomplish something every day. How many of you make your beds in the morning? Nice. Former.mil.gov. Make your bloody bed. Kids, make your damn bed in the morning. Here's the reason why. Congratulations, you've done something. It's as simple as that. I made my bed. Now, the rest of the day can go to hell in a handbasket for all I care, but I made my damn bed. Now, I can't bounce a penny off the stupid thing, but I made it. Start your day off right. For me, cup of tea. For you colonials, it's probably coffee. Good cup of tea. Work to your strengths, cold optimal, take one step towards a rough tank, get creative. How many of you actually do something outside of this industry that you would consider creative? I mean, I mountain bike and I try to kill myself on a regular basis, but I'm taking up photography again. Had a fantastic conversation with, where did she go? She's floating around here somewhere. There we are. Had a fantastic conversation about photography. Why? Because I used to do it years ago. I forgot about it. Now I want to go play again with a camera with a lens that I can adapt and mess around with and take off and play. Do something outside of this sodding industry. How many of you step away from your technology? Awesome. I did it yesterday. I got in here about 2 o'clock yesterday morning, and I left my phone in the car. And I got up to the hotel room and I'm settling down. I'm like, where the smeg is my phone? Because I needed to, put a bloody alarm call and all that kind of good stuff. And I looked for it, and then thankfully on the Apple side, I did to find my phone, and I realized it was across the road in the car park in the bloody car. And I'm like, it's staying there. I don't have to be on call anymore. If the building burns down at WWT, all I have to do is deal with this. I don't have to worry about the place burning down so much. I don't have to be on call for anything anymore. Kids taken care of. If they need to get hold of me, there's other ways to get hold of me. I left my phone there until I eventually got around to picking it up yesterday afternoon. It was dead at that point, which made me very happy. But step away from your technology or find something that takes you away from it. Mountain biking in my case as well. All right, the penultimate list. Let's go back to our industry and see what we said we could have done or should have done. We have told people that we can protect them. We failed. We have told people that technology will save us. It hasn't. We have said that endpoints will solve the problem. There is a company out there who will remain nameless-ish, Arctic something or other. They'll send you like a free banana hammock in the mail that's meant to be something else. They'll tell you that they can protect everything, including the unknown unknown. Bullshit. We will deploy in minutes. Next time somebody says that, taser them and put it on YouTube, please. We tell people we don't have enough people in the industry, yet we put up all the barriers to get people in the industry. We're our own worst enemies on that one. We tell people certificates are necessary, yet we don't make it easy to get the darn things. And then when we do, we ignore the bloody things and we tell you need X number of years experience. Again, we failed. Pen tests, passing the audits, train our staff, etc., etc. Let me talk about the future, because that's where we're going and that's where everybody else is going to be dealing with us. These are things that I think we're going to have to keep an eye on for a whole bunch of different reasons. Actual artificial intelligence, not the generative stuff that we're faffing around with today. Actual AI. We've got some work to do on it, but it's getting there. the ability to have it not just look at your documents and edit the damn things, but make a nice cup of tea for you while it's doing them. Regulatory change. Well, we asked for the power, didn't we? And we got it. Doesn't necessarily mean we got the ability to affect change at the same time. It just means we're going to get yelled at a lot more. How do we change that paradigm? How do we actually work within the regulatory framework, whichever one we shall choose? By the way, if anybody decides they want to make another regulatory framework, see me afterwards. I have spare taser cartridges. Collaboration and resilience. It's a biggie. Healthcare. Let's face it, for 20, 30, 40 years, if we screwed it up, we said, reboot it, it'll be fine. Now, if we say we screwed it up, people die. We don't have a grace period to screw things up anymore. We must work together to get it right. Here's my ask. It's a simple one to ask, not an easy one to fix though. This is something that we've been trying to figure out for the last goodness knows how many years. This is why I look at any kind of augmented or actual or artificial intelligence or machine learning language or anything else and say, until you can help me understand the right person, in the right place, at the right time, with the right focus and the right motives, I don't care. We should be working towards this, because until we can figure this one out, we don't know who or what is real out there. We still cannot ascertain whose fingers are on the keyboards. We, in the industry, are the lucky ones. We understand this problem. But there are 5.5 billion people out there that are relying on us to get it right. And so far, we can't answer those questions, which is why 10 billion has walked away from this country, and the old, and the kids, and those people around us. It is why fraud is still perpetuated, because we cannot answer those questions. So 2 things. 1, teach people the right answers. And secondly, every single time somebody comes to you and tells you they can solve everything with AI, if they cannot answer those, send them my way. So, with that, I will shut the heck up and let the closing ceremonies begin. Thank you very, very much for listening. Go in peace, and inshallah, I will see everybody next year. Take care. Thank you for having me.